Welcome to another episode of Variant the Pod. Is it Andy Williams? Andy Williams, right?
Andy Williams, yes.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
You're talking about it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas? No, it's the most wonderful time of the year, yeah.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy
We're past
holidays.
that,
Yeah, we are.
We're past that.
We are.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But happy holidays. I hope everybody had a wonderful Christmas. For all of you who celebrate, you're having a great holiday season. In general, we're headed towards the new year. I guess something we'll say right up front before we dive into any of our topics. So everybody's aware, we are going on our 2-week break. This is the last episode of the year, but we will be back on January 15th. We're going to be taking a little bit of an extended hiatus because not only are we taking a 2-week break, but when we come back, we've got some projects we're going to be diving into. And then we will be back. The first episode of the new year for the podcast will be January 15th. So
see you next year. You get it?
I mean, I guess that's true in the end.
There's always that one relative that's like at Christmas, like, oh man, next time I'm going to see you is next year. And it's like, yeah.
See you on the flip.
I get it. Because that's like 6 days from now. I got it.
And also we had our big Christmas giveaway. This is our first podcast since we had our big Christmas giveaway.
Everything's been sent out.
Yeah, all the giveaways should be in the hands of almost everybody. A couple of the things, the shipping was like really long, actually. Everything's ordered. So for anyone who won like the video games and the PlayStation got delivered pretty quick, but like the Xbox was a long delivery. Anyway, point is,
it's the holidays.
Yeah, it's the holidays. Some of the shipping was long. But congratulations to all the winners. We actually had one person win 2 of the big prizes.
The Xbox and the first appearance of Bane.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was crazy. I didn't realize it during the show. And then you told me afterwards, and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. That I think her name was Maddie was her username.
Yeah.
But she cleaned up.
Dude.
She won basically $1,000 in giveaways.
And we had thousands of people watch the show. Yeah.
There was actually
two or three.
There was 3 people who won 2 different giveaways.
She just happened to win 2 of the bigger ones. 4 biggest prizes of the day.
Yeah. That's just, what are the odds?
That's what I was impressed with.
Anyway. I don't even know if because it's weird like how the giveaway system works. It's all like automated, within the app. But like I wonder what the algorithm is with that it chose the 3 same people 2 different times.
It's wild.
Yeah.
But congratulations to all the winners. We had a blast. We gave away almost $10,000 worth of stuff.
That was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing another giveaway on our Whatnot in the new year.
I believe it was the biggest comic book giveaway on Whatnot all year. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to. It's close. Top 10.
Yeah. When I spoke to the people that won it, because that was one of my goals, I wanted to do one of the biggest giveaways on Whatnot this year. And when I spoke to them over there, they were like, yeah, this is definitely in that ballpark. So we had a blast. And so we look forward to doing another one in January. And we'll be auctioning some stuff off in January, too. We're going to be doing some cool stuff with that. So we got some big stuff planned in 2024. Is there anything you're particularly excited about 2024? Like just one thing?
Deadpool 3.
Is that your big?
That's by far. I mean, it's what's funny because movie-wise, that's like the only real thing that's even in comic books coming out next year. So
well, there's still some good movies. Like Dune is coming out in March.
Dune, that's what I'm
really
saying. Comic book
about
wise,
that one.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't even think we're getting
nothing DC related.
Across the Spider-Verse next year. I think that's moved. No DC, only Marvels. We're getting Deadpool 3, but we're getting a lot of Star Wars TV.
That's true.
I'm excited for the next season of Bad Batch.
But actual like theatrical releases.
Yeah, Deadpool 3.
We're getting the Creature Commandos, which is an animated series.
Yeah, it's on Max.
That's going to be on Max.
But no movies.
It's very limited.
Yeah.
Next year is going to be an interesting year.
I feel like next year TV is going to dominate. At least the nerd side.
Well,
the nerd
only
side
because
of
I think that's all that's left.
For sure.
There's like a general, even TV wise, there's going to be a little bit of a content drought to some degree. It's going to be
not for Star Wars. They're staying strong.
Well, I don't know. That's even the Star Wars offerings are going to be spread out, and they're not that big.
I mean, you got Bad Batch season 3.
Mm-hmm.
You have oh my God, Skeleton Crew with Jude Law.
Mm-hmm.
You have
that's animated as well.
A lot of them are animated. We have now I'm brain farting here. I knew them all. There's 5. I know there's 5. Acolyte. That's another one.
If we actually get it. I'm still not convinced.
Tales of the Jedi season 2, another animated one. And Andor season 2. There we go.
Well, even that one, they're questioning whether
one.
that's
so 4 guaranteed, possibly 5.
But 3 of them are animated series.
Star Wars animation is arguably the best Star Wars.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's not. It doesn't come with the same hype.
I'm just categorizing it as like TV. So yeah, just like
Anyway.
So you need to watch Tales of the Jedi, though.
I know, I haven't.
I don't know how that's Filoni, and it fills in so many gaps of like Dooku, Ahsoka.
I actually forgot about it. I was supposed to watch it, forgot about it, or didn't get to it. Then I completely forgot about it until you brought it up just the other day.
It's so good. I was actually watching something online today where they were making the argument that Clone Wars is the best thing in all of Star Wars. Period. I'm like, there's an argument to be had for that.
Clone Wars,
the animated series 1 through 6, as a whole. I'm like, as far as arcs go, storytelling, like just all that, because you have the main character, Anakin, in there. He is like Star Wars, and then you got his apprentice and everything. It fills in all the gaps. You see Yoda, Windu. I mean, it's a fair argument. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I wouldn't want to say.
I mean, it wouldn't be my favorite, but it's certainly up there.
Yeah.
I can see the argument as far as like the storytelling portion.
It's definitely one of those things where it's not like you're like, whoa. You're like, I mean, I can see why you think that. Yeah.
Just purely from the mythology, like building out the mythology and.
It was also Lucas is the other thing. Yeah. Just like the original trilogy. That was Lucas and Filoni. Like that was everything he wanted to do. So it's like, that is Star Wars. That's more Star Wars than all these other stuff.
A lot of people forget Clone Wars did not start under Disney Lucasfilm.
No. That was actually on Netflix for years, which is funny.
That was actually George Lucas and Dave Filoni first.
Cartoon Network.
So we've got several big things that have taken place recently we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Most notably is we finally got our answer. We've been talking about what's going to happen with Kang and the direction of the MCU. With all of these rumors flying around and all this sort of a thing. We've had several big episodes lately where we have kind of been breaking down all the ongoings with the MCU, Marvel in general. And we got one of our big answers just yesterday, which was that Jonathan Majors was convicted on 2 of 4 counts, I believe.
2 counts of harassment.
He was found guilty. I'll say he was found guilty. And Disney promptly, I don't think they've made an official statement as of yet.
Their spokesperson did.
Yeah, but in anonymity.
Yeah, I mean, but
it was enough for everyone to go, he's out. Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that he was guilty on an harassment charge and an assault charge, like we all knew the minute he was guilty of anything like close to assault or actually assault, he's done.
Yeah, he's done.
That's it.
I also feel like it was like that was a done deal. They were just waiting for it to be official. And because there was too much scrambling going on, there was too much fire and smoke of them scrambling heavily, not just because of, the box office failures and all this kind of stuff that's been going on, but clearly they know we've put all our eggs in this one basket and this basket is falling apart.
Well, I think there was a lot to it because I think it was a twofer. This sounds like really cynical, but I almost feel like Disney and Marvel was a little happy that they have to let him go because Kang never really hit the way they wanted him to hit.
Right. And that was their fault.
Yeah, for
sure. Which is the saddest part.
He played the character great. It was just the way they used him. I mean, he did not have a good outing in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. We really liked him in Loki season 1, and we got him a little bit in Loki season 2, but like they just couldn't find their traction to build him up like they did Thanos, it seems. It just wasn't working. And we said in a long podcast, I remember saying that I think it was actually when Jeff, the Golden Age Guru, was here, that a big part was I think Marvel was pushing Jonathan Majors Kang.
Right.
Like that actor who's like, we got Jonathan Majors, Creed guy. Jonathan Majors is playing Kang. It's like, instead of just pushing Kang, the big bad, like they did with Thanos, like all those years was like, no, Thanos is coming. Like Brolin didn't even get cast as a character until like Infinity War and Endgame. We had a totally different guy in practical makeup playing Thanos leading up. So I think that was not smart of them. But again, now that they're like, oh, what are we going to do? We got Kang Dynasty. I feel like there's some part of them that are like, okay, well, now at least it's making us have to reset and give us a new big bad that people are probably really going to like, which is obviously Dr. Doom. That's been like the rumor mill since the start of this trial.
Yeah.
Where that's another thing of like, you hear rumors that they're like, oh, they got plan B. Cillian Murphy's in talks. Blah, blah, blah's in talks. Like, what's that guy? What's the guy's Mikkelsen?
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen. Him and Cillian Murphy are apparently the 2 frontrunners to play Dr. Doom. Apparently. Obviously, there's rumors. But like, again, how many of these rumors? I feel like 90% of these rumors turn out to be true at this point.
I don't know. How do you've already had Mads play Caecilius.
Yeah.
So it's like, how are you going to have him play Doctor Doom? I just feel like I think that's a bad rumor. I don't feel like that's a good rumor.
Mads, they give him everything to play cleanup, right? Like the same thing with the Harry Potter films, right?
Yeah,
Grindelwald.
Grindelwald. Yeah.
Grindelwald. They're like, oh, Johnny Depp's out because of court stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could play Grindelwald. Oh, Jonathan Majors is out, so hey, can you come in and be a doctor? You know what I mean? It's like he comes in to like clean people's messes up, so to speak. If that were true, I'd rather Cillian Murphy. Personally, I think he would do great.
I don't like that casting option either. Yeah,
really?
I'm hoping it's just a rumor and that's not real.
God. Are you on board with the John Hamm rumor then?
I think that John Hamm could be good as Doctor Doom.
That's actually a fan cast more than a rumor.
I really like John Hamm. I think he's underutilized. I think he could play some really cool roles, especially in superhero universes.
Bruce Wayne was a big one, Batman for a while.
Yep. I think there's definitely, he has a ton of potential, and I think he could be a good Doctor Doom. I think I would just really love to see them find someone that is not a name. Really do a hunt and find someone that is perfect for the role that we're not used to, so that we can see Doctor Doom, not an actor.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to see Scarecrow?
And I also feel like Marvel just keeps kind of going back to the well. And they keep casting similar people over and over and over and over.
Oh, they're definitely picking from like all the A-listers.
I really want them to. I'm hoping that they get away from that. I want them just to go out and do what James Gunn is doing right now, and what he did with Superman Legacy, where they went on a full-blown casting call, and they were looking at thousands of different people to play Superman. They were looking at all kinds of people to play all these different roles for these films, and I would like to see Marvel get back to that and really focus on who is right for the character, not what name can we bring to this film to bring, the street cred to it.
I think Marvel's kind of been frantic over this last year because,
without doubt,
they're not doing so hot at the box office, and the revenue isn't nearly what it used to be over the last decade or so. So I think they're like, hey, if we get Pedro Pascal to play Mr. Fantastic, he's a huge name. He's a big guy right now.
That's another one I'm hoping is just a rumor.
Or we get the Oppenheimer star, right? We'll get Cillian Murphy. He also played Scarecrow, Peaky Blinders. I mean, these are huge names that people love. But again, I agree with you. I think with superhero films, a lot of times I would like to see characters that or people cast as these characters that we don't necessarily know, because it is easier to believe them. But I wouldn't mind Cillian Murphy playing Doctor Doom at the same time.
My issue with Cillian Murphy is, and let me be very clear here, it is not the same thing in terms of how, what's the guy's name who played Lex Luthor in BVS and Justice League?
Oh my gosh, you made me forget his name.
Great actor. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg. There you go. It's not the same thing in terms of how he portrayed Lex Luthor, but I feel like Cillian Murphy, is it Cillian or Cillian? I always say it's Cillian, right? Yep. Cillian Murphy, he is a phenomenal actor. Like what he did in Oppenheimer. Have you seen Oppenheimer?
I still haven't seen it. I'm going to watch it over Christmas break.
Gosh, he was incredible in Oppenheimer.
Did you just see it, or did you see it in theaters?
I saw it in theaters back when it came out. But the guy's just a Peaky Blinders, on and on you could go. He played what's his face, Crane in Scarecrow. Yeah. So he's there's a lot of reasons why I can understand why Marvel would be looking at him, but he's physical features. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Jesse Eisenberg. I would really like to see Doctor Doom be a physically imposing figure.
Well, I'd imagine he would bulk up like all these people.
I don't know that Cillian could bulk up very much.
I mean,
not. First of all, he's older. He's not a young guy.
He's on that Hollywood diet, bro. They give him that juice. They give him them cookies.
I've never seen him bulk up for anything, for any role.
I haven't seen him bulk up. But
he's just a very thin guy, and he doesn't seem like somebody who would be spending a lot of time in the gym or sign up for anything where he has to spend a lot of time in the gym. He's an actor's actor. He's great. Yeah, and I just don't think.
Imagine how sinister he would be at Victor Von Doom. Like he would really. He would definitely
be able to pull off the dark element.
Oh my God, yeah.
As long as he doesn't do, because I didn't love some of the way that he portrayed Scarecrow.
That was early. That was a little early on in his career too.
But it was just actors.
But you've seen Peaky Blinders, right?
Actors like that. This is one of the reasons why I want them to go and get like someone who's not a name, because then if you get a really good director, right, that actor, because they're not a proven entity, they're going to be more willing to be go, follow the director's vision and kind of be molded and make adjustments and not like, hey, I'm going to create this character. And a lot of these proven actors, they come into these movies and they kind of dictate a direction for a character, i.e. Jared Leto's Joker. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
where they want to put their stamp on the character, they want to play it their way, and it's very difficult sometimes for directors to get them to deviate when it's bad, which is why we get some of these characters and it's just like, that's just not a good iteration.
Yeah, because when you're getting a big actor, if you're casting someone like a Ben Affleck or, Cillian Murphy or whatever, they're not auditioning.
Right.
You're just like...
You're casting
You're
them.
like, I want you to play Doom, and they say yes or no. They're not coming in front with an audition tape.
You just make an offer.
Right. So, yeah, like I said at the beginning, I don't necessarily disagree. I just think I'd be happy either way, I think is what I'm saying. Like, because I think he could nail it, but I think they could also find someone who could nail it as well and, make that guy a star.
I definitely don't think it would be the end of the world, like, by any stretch. I think if they cast him in the role, I'd be like, okay. He's going to do a good job.
But I'm curious, because then you have stuff like Heath Ledger, right? Who, like, he won an Oscar for Brokeback Mountain, right?
Yes.
I believe so. So you had, like, an Oscar winner come in, play the Joker. That was him. That was just him. That wasn't like Nolan being like, do this. He created that character.
For sure.
So it's like sometimes they could create their own thing.
Sometimes it can work. Sometimes. And I'm purely going off what he did with Scarecrow.
Yeah.
So because with Heath Ledger, we had never seen him do anything like that before. But with Cillian, we've seen him do the Scarecrow. And it's a different character for sure.
I think it would be more close to his Peaky Blinders character, Thomas Shelby. I think it would be more in that vein where it's that intimidating, forceful, because it's Doom.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You love Peaky Blinders, though, right?
I do.
Yeah,
that's why
he's great in it.
It's not, again, it's like we always talk about. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you can do everything.
Yeah.
And because he was perfect for that role in Peaky Blinders, because first of all, he's genuinely Irish.
Yeah.
Right? So he comes from that world and he knows what, those kind of obviously it's a different era now, but he knows what the brogues are like in Ireland, right? So he fit that. He was not this brooding, tough guy. He was kind of the skinny, intimidating. He was just a psychopath. And for me, I would like to see Dr. Doom be a bigger, more physically imposing, someone who can go toe-to-toe with, I just don't want to see like a small Mr. Fantastic and a small Dr. Doom. It's just, I would really like to see, kind of like what I've been saying about Lex Luthor, where they just cast these very small or older people to play Lex Luthor, and we've never gotten the really dark, physically intimidating Lex Luthor. I would really like to see them start casting some of these roles like what they did with Kang with Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors, regardless of whether you like the way he acted, he portrayed the character, he was a physically imposing figure. He's a big guy.
He's a big guy. Nicholas Hoult, I think, who's cast as Lex Luthor in Superman Legacy, he's like 6'2", whatever. He's big, and I think he's going to put on muscle.
That dude could put on some
I think
mass.
he's going to put on some mass.
Because he's got a big frame.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him he's no stranger to superhero movies. He was Beast. But he was in a lot of makeup, prosthetics, and a suit. So I'm very curious to see.
He's tall, but he's skinny, but he can definitely bulk up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, we will see because it's a rumor. It's a rumor.
If they cast him, I mean, it's going to be like whatever.
The main thing is, even besides the cast him, it's like now that Jonathan Majors is out, right? What do you do? Because it was literally Kang Dynasty. So they've already said that is no longer the title, obviously, alluding that they're not recasting Kang. They are shifting away from Kang because the internet's like on fire right now. It's like, John Boyega, make John Boyega Kang, make John Boyega Kang.
No.
And he actually responded to it being like, no, because he doesn't like Disney after how they treated him with Star Wars. So he posted a GIF of, I believe, Donkey from Shrek going like this, shaking his head no. That's what his response was. Basically like, I am not working with Disney.
How sad is that?
Yeah. So for like, how bad does your experience have to be to not want to work with like one of the biggest studios in the world? Like Disney's like, that's like, you've made it. You work with Disney, Warner Brothers, you have made it. That is the apex of Hollywood, right? So it's like for you to be like, hell no, something happened.
I mean, not just with Disney, right? Like you got a lead role in one of the largest franchises in history.
That's what I'm saying, all of it, yeah.
Right? And you left that experience so jaded by the whole thing that you were just like, never again.
And for another A-list role to be the Thanos essentially for this next era of Marvel films. So, and he's like, even if they offered me, no, like I don't want, nope. Because that's another like, you play a character like Kang or any of these iconic characters, whatever. You just go to Comic-Cons for the rest of your life and make like $200,000 a weekend.
I think it's easy though for him to say. I think it's easy for him to say now because he knows he's not going to get offered the role. They're not going to offer him that, especially not as vocal as he's been about. They're not going to offer him that. So it's easier for him to say, whereas if they actually came knocking, it probably would be a little more difficult for him because that's a very big role. But I mean, that's a terrible casting. I don't know who's calling for that, but that's a terrible casting choice.
John Boyega, I mean, I think I do want them to shift and go to Doctor Doom because I prefer him as a villain anyway. I like Kang, and I thought Majors did good, but I'd rather Doctor Doom. And I think now they could shift to like something like Doom War or a more accurate Secret Wars where Doom is always front and center in Secret Wars anyway. You know what I mean? And introduce the Beyonders and all that fun stuff. So I think that's probably, I mean, can you imagine like Avengers Doom War if that's what they retitle it because they have to rewrite it now? So that would be really, really cool if that's the shift. It's just kind of crazy that like Marvel, man, they just can't catch a break because now they're already taking off 2024 and now this cements that like, oh yeah, they needed to because now they have to spend an entire year reworking what they were going to do. You know what I mean? Because we had Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. So now it's like Doom was probably going to be a part of it somehow because we're already introducing the Fantastic Four. But now it's like, oh, now he has to be the center of it. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know what they were doing behind the scenes. Like, sure, Kang, obviously Kang Dynasty, but was it going to be a thing like where you had Doctor Doom and Kang, two big bads kind of colliding with like the heroes stuck in the middle? Like, that would have been really cool, right? If you have Secret Wars where it's like bringing out Doctor Doom and he's kind of more front and center, but like in the background is Kang. And then Kang's like, what the hell are you doing, Victor Von Doom? Oh, we're related. We're ancestors. That leads into Kang War, and you have them going head to head with like all these multiversal heroes caught in the middle, like Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, like Edward Norton, Hulk, like whoever, because they want to bring back everyone. And you have literally every live action Marvel hero ever cameo or reprise a role in this film in this war between Doctor Doom and Kang. Like that. If I'm not saying that's what they were going to do, but that would be freaking awesome. If that's what they had planned, let's just say hypothetically, then now it's like, okay, Kang, you're gone. Now it's just got to all be about Doctor Doom.
Well, did Disney officially say that they are changing the title of Kang Dynasty?
Yes.
They officially said that.
Like literally like the next day, like the writers and stuff were saying it no longer. Like if you look up new images, it won't even say it anymore. Like they try to erase it, yeah.
Okay, so I didn't see that part for sure because I know that there's just been so much like just general rumblings.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think that the good thing here, I think the best part of this whole thing is that they have options now.
That's a very optimistic,
right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying like now they can kind of use this to save face a little bit, and make changes without having to be tied to this character that they kind of rolled out and wasn't quite as successful as they hoped, etc. Again, by their own fault.
But doesn't it feel like such a waste because Kang is an awesome villain? So now it's like you just kind of wasted Kang in after the fact now. You know what I mean?
Well, that is the reason why I am on the side of recast him. Recast the character and reshape what his role is going forward. And make it Kang and Doom as dual villains for this as we head towards Secret Wars. Because I think that it would create a much grander dynamic. It would give you a lot more of a reason to feel a sense of dread. Thanos presented such a huge threat because of the Infinity Gauntlet and him and this quest to get the stones, right? And they were constantly trying to get ahead of him to keep him from getting access to the stones because he was such an imposing figure. He's a titan. He's almost a god.
Yeah.
And for him to then, on top of that, get the stones, and they did a very good job of relaying what that meant for the universe as a whole and all this kind of stuff. So that built up this incredible tension, like this dread, this sense of dread, this imminent threat, that if he gets these final stones, that's it, right? Yeah. Well, I don't think that either Doctor Doom or Kang would do that. There's just, especially considering how much they're trying to do in a very short period of time. Because even even now, Secret Wars is slated to come out, what, 2028?
It's been moved so many times. I'm not sure, but a long time.
I think it's 2028 now.
See, where I think they slipped up though is they waited so long to introduce the next big bad. I feel like literally Endgame, or at least the first film after, should have teased the next thing coming, the next big bad. Like they waited all the way to Loki season 1.
I agree with you.
Because then they've wasted 2 years of setup time. Because if you would have introduced Kang earlier on, or Doctor Doom right at the end of Endgame, or one of the first movies of Phase 4, then it's like, oh, then there would have been this looming threat. Because Doctor Doom could have totally filled the shoes of a Thanos character. I mean, you're talking about like a guy who's like defeated the Beyonders and stuff, and has had the Infinity Gauntlet and all this stuff himself. So he could have totally filled those shoes. It's just they didn't know what they were doing, clearly, and they wanted to introduce all these new characters, and they had the Disney Plus initiative with all their shows, and they wanted to go. So they just kind of shot themselves in the foot.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is that the reason that all of that happens is they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
They did not have a plan for the first time in a while.
I know,
they just
in 10
didn't
years.
have a plan. And they'll probably say, we did have a plan. And if that's true, the plan wasn't good, gang. It wasn't good.
A lot of people are saying
that
Feige did a fantastic job. He got us to, to Endgame, but like he needs to step down now. There's a good piece of the internet. There's like, I think it's time to trade.
Yeah, I mean, it goes towards what we were talking about in our last conversation about all of this, which is that at some point you earn a lot of goodwill, not just with the public, but with the corporations that you are working for, when you have huge successes. And in his case, a long string of successes, massive ones.
He was their biggest breadwinner for a long time.
He built an empire for them, essentially. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to gain him some serious goodwill. And, okay, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, even through some big losses. But now we're going on a few years, right? And it's been it just has been increasingly going downhill. And, they've definitely had some successes mixed in there. As far as box office goes, they're not as big as they were, but they were still successes.
Yeah.
But it's undeniable. They are dropping off heavily, and it's becoming now exponential and its fall off. So at what point, just like with the Kathleen Kennedy discussion, it's at what point do you go, okay, it's time to part ways. This isn't working out. It's time to move in a new direction. Every corporation does this at some point. And that's true of Bob Iger, by the way. There's a lot of people that are actually calling for Bob Iger to finally step aside for real.
Oh, for sure. What if they just swap? Kathleen Kennedy go to Marvel Studios and Feige will go to Lucasfilm.
Oh, man, there's some people that hate you right now.
Could you imagine?
Oh, dude.
The Marvel fans are like, don't you put that on us.
Yeah, but you better say that was a joke, because somebody's typing like fire. Smoke's coming off their fingers right now.
Could you imagine?
Oh,
it's like Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down from Lucasfilm. The next day, they're like, Kathleen Kennedy is the new president of Marvel Studios. Oh, my God.
Kevin Feige takes the reins of Lucasfilm.
Meanwhile, James Gunn is like, he's just laughing at
that there has to be a part of him that is like...
He got out.
Yeah, that is like...
perfect time.
Well, also because of what happened with him. The way that he was treated. He was fired, and then they begged him to come back. And the way that the whole MCU has gone after... that they're in private, he's just like
he has one of the most fascinating. I don't think people talk about it enough.
For sure,
people don't talk about it enough. But you just brought it up, so we got to highlight that, because this happened years ago. But yeah, he got shunned from Marvel Studios. Fired. Fired because of past like tweets, right? And just like that, when his whole
admittedly were gross tweets.
They were,
but they were old.
They were old, and all that stuff. And even his cast was saying like, "Look, we get it. We're not trying to justify it, but like, he's not that guy. Like that was a long time ago. You had literally all of his cast members, from Zoe Saldana to Chris Pratt, and everyone. Literally everyone.
They threatened to walk off.
Yeah. So they fired him. Iger and Feige, whatever, like, yeah, bye. Mickey Mouse kicked him to the curb. But Warner Brothers, looking for that success, was like, oh, you don't want one of your best directors and creatives? You don't got a job, Gunn? How about you come over to DC?
Yeah. DC was off in the corner with the rain cloud hovering over their heads.
It's like,
and this little beam of light just shone through, and they were like,
It's like, we got superheroes. Actually, our superheroes were around before Marvel superheroes.
Would you want to come play with us?
So he did Suicide Squad for them. He did Peacemaker for them. At which point Marvel's like, oh, wait, no, everyone's rallying behind him and they're really liking what you're doing over there. Come back and finish freaking Guardians. So he's like, fine. But that's just because I want to cap my trilogy, which is fine. So it makes sense, you know. He did the first two. It's like, I would have done the same thing. It's like, let me cap it off. And the actors were only gonna come back if they got guns. Yep. So they were like put in a corner, like, damn it. He works for DC, but because that's a thing too, like for the longest time, specifically the first 10 years, if you were an actor or director in a Marvel film, you could not do DC.
Right.
There was like a no compete clause.
Right.
But they had to make an exception.
They sure
because
did.
Gunn already was making the Suicide Squad, and they knew they couldn't finish off the Guardians if they didn't get them back. And you know, Feige had to have been like,
oh, because they did not. They didn't seem to get along the best.
No, and it still seems like
that burned him.
But then it comes after that, after the success of Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, the powers that be and everything changing and all the chaos going on with Warner Brothers and Discovery were like, hey, Gunn, so we got rid of all our old guys like Hamada and stuff. You want to run this thing? So they got him and Peter Safran, and now freaking James Gunn is literally the equivalent for DC of what Feige is for Marvel. This dude got to finish Guardians 3. And a holiday special, and write out and build out the entire DC universe. So he was in freaking Feige's camp doing all that stuff while simultaneously, like, essentially, you had your competitor, you had your rival doing something for
you.
You had to pay you to finish out this thing while he's simultaneously creating plans to compete and beat you.
Yeah. Love
That's
that.
hilarious.
I love that. But you know, when they were begging him to come back to do Guardians 3, you know that one of the deals was, okay, but I get to make my movie.
For sure.
Hands off.
Yeah.
Nobody tells me nothing. I get to make my movie, period. And that was clearly the deal because the tone and everything for Guardians 3 was totally different than everything else Marvel had been doing around it. And it made it for that reason, it was so much better. It was one of the best movies they'd put out in years.
For sure. Yeah.
So it was like, you could tell 100%. He's like, okay, I'll do it. But I want it in writing.
He's like,
no,
hey,
I get to make my movie.
Because I'm a studio head too now, Feige. You want to come make a movie for me?
Oh, jeez. But going back to Kang, I would personally really, like I said, I would really like to see them recast. I don't think anybody is so attached to Jonathan Majors as Kang that you can't recast. I think they made a mess and they created a problem for themselves, particularly with Kang as a character, not necessarily just with Jonathan Majors, but with Kang as a character and how they set the table with him. There were so many things that they set up and alluded to with Kang that now you have to figure out how to either cap off or just ignore entirely. But I don't see why you would need to do that. I don't think anybody is so attached to John. This is not a Boseman situation, Chadwick Boseman situation, where he played Black Panther so well. Everyone came to know him as Black Panther, and then he passed away unexpectedly.
I think a lot of people in hindsight now, especially since we've had time to like sit on it, would have rathered, even with that unfortunate tragedy of his passing, them go ahead and recast.
I think that's still very polarized.
Do you think so? I've been seeing,
because there's a lot of people that still do not want him.
I mean, but think about it. Like it's horrible. Like it's
at some point you have to.
Right. It's like, it was horrible. It's tragic. And I totally get it. Like, especially for, you know, everyone working on the films behind the scenes. It's like, no, we can't do this without him. So I get it. But at the same time, like, it's like, so since he passed, that means we just don't get T'Challa then? Like, we just can't have him?
Totally fair.
So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, you can see both sides.
Yeah. And also, you know, even the people that are just like, you know, oh, Chadwick Boseman was so meaningful for the Black community and things like that. And that's all very, very true. But so is T'Challa.
Exactly. As a character. He's a character. Exactly.
And so I think it has more to do with giving enough time, allowing for enough time to pass.
But I almost want,
if they start rebooting these characters and stuff like that, that's going to be the perfect opportunity. And I think eventually they will just recast T'Challa. And You just need the right amount of time to pass, and I think everyone will feel like everybody got to kind of they paid tribute to Chadwick Boseman and what he brought to the character and to the screen. But also it kind of gave everybody a little bit of time. I know this sounds maybe a little dramatic, but for closure on it, and then we can move into the next era.
It's just the way I wonder if they should have, like, with Wakanda Forever, made it to where it wasn't so finite, in the sense more ambiguous, to where, no, because the opening was, I don't really know how you do it. It's just, all I know is now that it ended with like his son, right? So it's like the setup, like, so it's like, I don't know. I mean, with the multiverse,
I would love to see them explore that. With T'Challa's son.
Yeah, and just be like T'Challa Jr., essentially. That's
one of my issues. That is, man, and we don't talk about that nearly enough, is how many different things this MCU, this after Infinity or Endgame,
set up and hasn't touched.
How many things that they have set up and introduced and have not touched, and with no idea where it's going or what they plan to do with it.
Because that's what I'm saying. Unlike the first 10 years, like, they would do a tease and then a movie again.
Flippantly.
Yeah, we're going to introduce,
almost like a joke,
a secret child of T'Challa, and not do this thing. And I guarantee you, same thing with like freaking the Young Avengers at the end of Marvels. We're not going to see that for like, who even knows the next time they're going to reference that. There's just so many things that's like left floating. Oh, Star Fox and the Eternals.
Oh my gosh.
That was another one. It's like, all right, you did that, and you freaking got Harry Styles, one of the most recognizable names out there, and you're just not going to freaking.
Or how about the fact? Yeah, how about the fact that a Celestial was half birthed out of the planet in the Eternals?
They touched on that a little bit.
There's like a Celestial's mountain.
They touched on it a little bit in She-Hulk, I believe, in like a newspaper clipping.
But that's a huge deal. How about the fact that they introduced the Black Sword?
Oh, that's another one. About freaking
the Black Knight.
Yeah,
not the Black Sword. All black.
All black. Yeah.
That Black Knight and all black
in the Eternals also.
Well. Yep. How about the fact that they hinted
you got Jon Snow to play him?
Yeah, and it's like all these different things, and we're just naming a couple. There's a lot. Yeah. We're not even mentioning stuff that they introduced in Moon Knight. It's things that they introduced in Loki, on and on and on. And it's like, how do you possibly hope to pay all of this off? Like, why would you even introduce the idea of the Young Avengers, right, without even a plan to bring them around any time earlier than 2028? Dude, what you doing, Bob?
I don't know, man.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's just not good storytelling.
What they're doing is very reminiscent of what the DCEU did early on.
100%.
Where they're just saying things.
At the end, when it was starting to fall apart.
Well, even just like at the Comic-Con, like when Snyder was even still attached, when they're like, we're getting Nightwing, we're getting Green Lantern Corps. And it's like, oh, are we?
But that's what I'm saying. That was the beginning of the end.
Oh, yeah. So you're thinking this is the beginning of the end for Marvel?
That's what I was like. There's time with them. They've built up something that DC didn't have. So Disney and Marvel, they have like a little bit of runway left, because they legit built up something that is massive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, they've done a lot of damage with the audience, but they still have some runway left to correct it and to
the X-Men, the freaking X-Men.
Oh yeah, that's a whole.
I mean, they've teased them several times. I mean,
but they're actually going to do that.
They're banking on it now. I just saw a report saying that they're going to be leaning heavily, like more so on the X-Men than the Avengers. The Avengers will be played background to the X-Men. So it seems like this next phase of Marvel is just going to be what the Avengers were for the first 10 years is what the X-Men will be for the next 10, essentially, is what it's going to be. Where they're going to be the front and face, and you'll have the little Captain America sprinkled in there and stuff like that, and Hulk here and there.
I could see them doing that and that being their desperate lunge. But if that's not done well, if that's not done carefully, like, it's just, you're risking them ruining, like, just bringing a not good iteration of the characters to light.
Yeah.
And then people are like, we waited all this time and this is what you do, and that's not it's just going to continue the decline. So all I'm saying, and I don't think I'm not saying anything that they don't know. They just better freaking be really thoughtful about the way that this is a great opportunity. Like I said, with this whole Kang thing, it's a great opportunity for them. They already seem to know and understand they've got to take a pause here and get their crap together. They're taking a year off. I'm just hoping that all the some of the ideological aspects
They're having
of
a
that going on in
reconstruction.
Disney and Marvel. I hope that they get put on the back burner so we can get back to just telling good stories and not worry about soapboxing.
I'm curious to see what announcements we're going to get next year because I don't think they're going to go completely dark. We're not going to have any movies, obviously, but I think, well, first and foremost, I think Deadpool 3 is going to be very telling. I feel like that is going to do a lot to set up where they want to go because I think they just finished shooting. So they know the atmosphere in the room right now because it was shooting.
How genius, by the way, while you're speaking of them shooting, how genius was Ryan Reynolds' response to the leaks?
Yeah, just making his own fake leaks. Yeah. It's amazing. It's so Ryan Reynolds. That's why I say he's a world treasure. But yeah, I think that's clearly killing the Fox universe. Maybe hopefully teasing some new X-Men to come going into whatever they want to do after Deadpool 3. Because at this point, things have been shifted so many times. I don't even know if it's fair to say that, yeah, Secret Wars is next. Yeah, Kang Dynasty is next. Like, sure. Is it now? We don't know. It could be changed tomorrow.
Do you think, I just wonder, would they be so ballsy as to let Ryan Reynolds go through, let's say, the Eternals, the Marvels?
If they're smart, they would. I already know what you're saying.
Just wipe out, like just make it purely comedic and just have Deadpool go around just literally wiping out all the bad or loose end story arcs.
I mean, that's kind of what
stuff that didn't hit with the audience, things that were just bad, things that, or they're just kind of continuity wise, they're problems, and they let him just go through and just become like the Dr. Death essentially, and just hack stuff off.
So like part 2 of what he did in Deadpool 2
yes,
at the end,
but
where
like
he's just cleaning up the timelines.
Yeah, like he could recruit. What if he recruited a team? Not just Wolverine, but you like Cable.
Well, I think he's doing that. I think that he's doing it with the Fox universe. That's the big thing where it's like he's going to kill the Fox universe. He's going to clean that up.
Yeah.
It's just to the extent of like how far is that going to go. So for sure, it seems like he's going to Deadpool 3 is going to freaking reset the X-Men in the MCU.
For sure.
It's just a matter of, like you said, will they let him go to everything? I did see someone say that apparently Peacemaker from DC might make a cameo as an alternate version of Cable. Now, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to happen because they would have to make agreements with Warner Brothers. And I don't know that if they were able to make that deal work. But again, he made fun of freaking Green Lantern.
He did.
In Deadpool 2. So that's a DC. It's possible. It's possible. Could you imagine seeing John Cena and they'd say like, oh, what are you, an alternate version of Cable? Oh my God. That would be
very funny.
And if anyone could do it.
Oh yeah.
It would be.
Well, he seems to have just a lot of good relationships with everybody.
Dude, I still harp on it to this day. One of the best things that man has ever did is in Deadpool 2 at the end where where he's going around cleaning the timelines and he tells Hugh Jackman, he's like, one day I'm going to call on you. I'm gonna need your help. I'm gonna need you back.
No joke.
I do. So yeah, and then he brings that all the way full circle and connects it to bringing him back for real for Deadpool 3. I was like, did he know this all? Was this literally? Were you literally a mastermind?
What was the year's separation?
Oh, it was like at least 3 or 4 years. Like for sure.
Because it was Deadpool 2, right?
Deadpool 2. For sure, 3 or 4 years.
Because it was a while.
Yeah. No. Yeah. More than 2 for sure. But just the fact that it was like Babe Ruth calling a shot. That's basically all it is.
Without question.
Just insane.
So they announced that he was going to be that Hugh Jackman was coming back to play Wolverine in 2019, 2020?
No, it was end of 2022, beginning of 2023.
Oh, was it that recent?
Mm-hmm. It's only been like a year or so.
Okay, so let's say 2022 is 4 years.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty right. That was pretty right.
Wow.
Is that how you say it? That was close.
Right. Done did it. Wow. Yeah, no, that was an incredible move, and the way that they announced it was genius.
Again, that's all Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. No, he is one of the sharper people when it comes to how to market content. He's just really, really smart.
Yeah.
Really sharp, really knows how to read an audience and play with comedy but also cool at the same time. But yeah, if they let him, we know that he's going to be doing where he cleans up the X-Men part. But if we get to the end of the movie, toward the end of the movie, and he pulls something similar to what he did at the end of Deadpool 2, where he's just like, hey, we did it with all of this. Why don't we clean up some other things? That sort of a deal. Mm-hmm. And he winds up actually going through and snipping some branches out of the actual MCU, things that are inconvenient.
That'd be funny.
That would be funny and a super easy way to do it.
Is Deadpool 3 is the thing I'm looking forward to the most. I'm going to reiterate that like from the top of the episode because again, we're going to find out a lot, I feel, out of this movie. And even if we don't, like, it's just going to be entertaining. I mean, I'm kind of sad that a lot of the leaks came out because I already know some of the things.
I ignored them.
But
I thankfully I stayed away from it.
You did?
I heard you were actually the one that told me there was a bunch of leaks. And so anytime I saw anything Deadpool related, I just immediately skipped out of it. So I don't really know anything. I saw one image and I'm not even sure what I was looking at because I moved past it very quickly.
Was he holding a head?
No, he wasn't.
Whose head is it, Tim?
I wasn't looking. I don't know.
But that brings us to another big thing that happened earlier this week. Insomniac Games, Tim. Massive leak. They got hacked. And over 1 million plus files were stolen from them. And stuff that's been planned out to 2032.
It was AI, wasn't it?
It was it was a group called, let's see, it says Insomnia Games has been hit with a massive leak that reveals all of the games it has been in development all the way through 2032, including Wolverine, Venom spinoff, and a Ratchet and Clank game. That is insane. So it was a ransomware. It's a group called Ransomware. They threatened to leak the studio's files if they didn't receive 2 million in Bitcoin after 7 days. They straight up hacked them. Say you got a week to give us 2 million in Bitcoin, or we're just going to release 1 million plus files. How unfortunate is that?
People suck.
People do suck. I mean, it's 2032. Like, okay, so I almost feel bad kind of talking about it since it's leaked, but it's like it's everywhere now.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So like the biggest thing is obviously,
I think Insomniac also confirmed some of it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, but they released screenshots, apparently like a playable version of the Wolverine game. Like you can't make that up. You can't deny that. So like I just said, so after Spider-Man 2, they just released, well, the leak, we now know we're getting a Venom spinoff game. It's going to be very similar to the Miles Morales game that we got after the first Spider-Man PS5 game. So now we're getting a Venom spinoff game, which makes sense because if you played Spider-Man 2, you know Venom was a huge part. He's going to get his own deal. And then in 2028, we're going to get Spider-Man 3. So that's all like officially in development in the leaks. You could see it all. But the biggest takeaway, at least comic book wise, because we're also getting a Ratchet and Clank game with like a tag team game. But in 2030, we're going to be getting an X-Men game, a full-blown X-Men game.
I mean, it's cool. I just feel really bad for Insomnia Games, man.
Yeah, for sure.
They have been doing some really good work.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to have their thunder completely stolen like that, and them not be able to do the big announcements at a con or whatever, and have that completely stripped away from that, because it's not like you can just undo it and shift gears and just make another game.
No.
These games take years and years to develop. And they take legit hundreds and sometimes thousands of people to develop these games. And it's just, that's a really crappy situation. I don't know what led to it. Clearly they needed to up their security, their
that's crazy
information security, but to go that far, because you can't pay them.
No.
I mean, you can, but you're just welcoming more of it.
Yeah, and you can't even...
It's like negotiating with terrorists.
100%, and you don't even know like if they're going to honor that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
give them the money and then they do it anyway.
So, I mean, with Spider-Man 3, though, it's apparently coming out in 2028. Something that was in the leak that, again, very unfortunate, would have been cool, is it's basically going to be the video game version of Spider-Verse, where it's going to be Web Warriors, where you're going to have like 2099, like all these alternate versions of Spider-Man, because it's going to be the third game in their trilogy. So they're going to go all out just giving us a Spider-Verse, which again, imagine that like Comic-Con announcement where you just see all the different Spider-Man and you're like, you'll be able to play it on PS6 because by then PS6 will be out. Maybe.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I really do like, and we're entering a time where this type of stuff is going to increase in its regularity because of AI and because of the new technologies, quantum computing and things like that. It's making cybersecurity a very difficult challenge. It's just a major problem. And so, unfortunately, people who are looking to do things that are nefarious are always like a step ahead of the people developing new security techniques. So it's like this constant cat and mouse game. So that's kind of, it's just one of the things. It's like you hear that and you're like, oh, great. You know, you just hope that this doesn't turn into like a more regular occurrence, because that's one of the fun distances and then leaking them on the internet. And it's like, that's some of the most fun parts of all of this, is not knowing these things and getting to experiencing them, to experiencing them in real time together as a community.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And have that Infinity War endgame experience. You know, a lot of that's getting completely robbed out of our world now. And it's like, that sucks. Why do we want to do that?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And another thing that's weird about it too is like, this is happening the same time. We haven't talked about it on here, that E3 is officially over. Did you hear that?
No.
E3 is done as a convention. After like 30 plus years, there will no longer be E3.
You are kidding
It's
me.
officially come to, this actually happened like 2 weeks ago. This just made me remember.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, my head has been down. I've been bulldozing through.
Yeah. So E3 is officially over. And it was the San Diego Comic-Con of gaming conventions.
Yes, absolutely.
And
huge.
Yeah. So
huge.
It's done. So it's
why? Did they say?
I didn't look into it
it's
too
just
much.
The changing of
it just seems like
environment?
Everything is changing right now, which kind of goes into our next topic. But yeah, isn't that crazy that E3 is like, again, like I remember back in G4 TV days, which they tried to bring back, and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
But like E3 was like, again, it's the San Diego Comic-Con, the SDCC of gaming, and gaming is bigger than comic books.
Yeah,
for sure. Gaming is like one of the biggest things in the world as far as entertainment goes.
Yeah.
I feel like it's second only to film.
Right.
But that's nuts, right?
That goes back to, a couple of years ago when we were talking about like what's going to happen to the con industry in general. And the concern was, are they going to be able to survive the changes that are happening to not just economically, but to the people's behaviors after 2020.
Yeah.
Like human behaviors change so dramatically, and are things going to, go back to what we considered normal pre-2020 enough to sustain things like these huge cons and so forth? And the fact that they would call it quits, I mean, I'm going to look into that. I'm very interested to know exactly why, how that all came about.
So here's a quote. It's to reach fans and partners. Isn't that crazy? They're basically saying
that's
like
so ambiguous.
It seems like the influencers out and not have this whole big thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it seems like everyone's just looking to cut.
Consumers were giving them a reason to continue to do that. Well, let me backtrack on that a little bit, because that's not necessarily true. Some of these things are being dictated by people who want to push people indoors because it makes them more money in the end. Their bottom line is strengthened. Their overhead is reduced. So there is definitely people who want to see things like theaters go away.
Yeah.
And everything just go to home consumption.
Right here. It says even before the event we don't speak of in 2020 put a halt on large in-person gatherings, publishers had begun marketing directly to consumers via live stream show. That like, it's kind of what you were saying earlier and what you said before, where they were doing these live streams before, but once 2020 happened and everything was locked down, it sped everything up immensely.
We did a 10-year leap in a year.
I mean, again, this literally is what this says. Publishers had begun marketing directly to consumers via live stream even before 2020. But because of 2020, they're just like, let's just hurry this up and cut the cost.
Yeah.
This makes me scared for actual like San Diego Comic-Con. I actually think a tear would come to my eye.
I think that, but here's the thing. If this starts, it could domino quickly.
That's what I'm saying. If E3 is doing it.
Because what'll happen is that once these discussions start happening and it becomes this, oh, well, they're doing it and they're making X amount of dollars, or they're reducing their overhead and they're still making, they're still reaching their customers. Well, why don't we just do the same thing? It's a lot less work. It's a lot less overhead, et cetera, et cetera. And it'll speed up.
That's what this is saying right here.
It'll just ramp up.
It literally says here, it says there hasn't been that's what they're saying right here. It says there hasn't been an E3 since 2019. And basically, I'm going to paraphrase it, they've still been able to reach their fan base through other routes, is what that says in summary.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
It's cost.
So that is definitely something to keep an eye on, because, again, this has been my concern since 2020. Is how does this, because so much has changed. Everybody kind of likes talking about, oh, we've gotten back to normal. This hasn't gone back to normal. Some things have become more normal. But if you're honest, like nothing has gone back to the same way it was prior to 2020. The world changed. That whole event changed the world. It changed the way humans consume things. It changed our behaviors. It changed the way that we see and deal with each other. And not just, the one incident. There was a lot of things that happened.
What do you think of this? This is saying, since they haven't had an E3 since 2019, that there's been so many institutions that have replaced it in that meantime. So being away for 3-4 years, not only have they been able to still reach their fans, but things have had to take its place. So it's almost like E3 became outdated, and it's like, why do we need you now? We've been doing fine without you. We've already had new things take over. So why are we going to go back to the old? That's kind of sad. That's dark.
I mean, that happens.
It does.
Every industry evolves. My concern is that it's the same thing as theaters, because I'm looking at this through the lens of what's happening with the film industry. What's happening with movie theaters, movies going to theaters, what's going to continue to be the result because of the strikes, right? That's only going to further exacerbate the problem that was already created after 2020. Because if we were in a situation where they were, the theaters and movies were taking a huge hit, and as a result, the studios went, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to dramatically reduce budgets, and we're going to continue to focus on quality, but we're going to look to do this as efficiently as possible. So we're keeping budgets low, and we're able to put good quality stuff out there. The audience was going to theaters less and less.
You know what made me realize that? When doing the Rise and Fall of the DCEU episode, which is up on the main YouTube channel for Variant.
It's a good episode too, guys.
But going through research and seeing how much it made, right? Like Wonder Woman was well under 200 million to make. It was like 150 million to make, and it made like 800 plus million. But now you flash forward like 8 years, they're putting out like 200 plus million, and the films are only making like 500, 600 million. It's like, so the cost to make it is going up, and the return is going down. So it's like something's not working here.
And I would say, in that exact same vein, if they were making the exact same Wonder Woman movie today, it would not cost them 150, 180 million. It would cost 250 million.
Oh yeah, for whatever reason.
The exact same movie. You would get the exact same movie, nothing different. But it would cost them $100 million more to make the thing. And it's like, why? And I know the cost of everything's gone up, and et cetera, but it's not just that. There's something just wrong. There's something wrong with the way Hollywood is operating. There's just, the math doesn't make sense.
The math ain't mathing?
Yeah, the math ain't doing its mathy thing. And there needs to be some course correction. And my biggest concern, again, and this is something I've said many times on the show for you guys who've been listening a long time, my concern is I don't want a world where everything gets pushed into your house. And I know some people are cool with that. For me, that sounds awful. And, I think that we need human interaction. I think communal experiences are very important, and there's something that will be really, really missed once they're gone. And I think too many people don't realize how much we will miss them when they're gone until it's too late. And that kind of makes me sad.
I just hate the extremes of it, because I feel like, why can't we have both? Like, why do you have to choose one? Because it's like, oh, streaming, blah, 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 so everyone just has to watch at home. But it's like, I mean, yes, I love watching at home, and I there's a lot of movies I would rather watch at home, but at the same time, there's a lot of movies I'd rather watch in theaters, so I still want there to be an option. So why do we have to choose sides? Why can't there be the middle, Tim? Why can't we be in the middle?
Yeah. Unfortunately, money and the ability to consolidate control.
We all need to be gray Jedi. All right? That's what we need to be.
Gray Jedi.
Gray Jedi. That's what we need to be.
Fine. Yeah.
But speaking of things like kind of going away and merging and taking over, you know how Disney bought everything?
Not everything, apparently.
Not everything. Most things, Marvel, Fox, Star Wars. Well, it looks like Warner Brothers. Good old Zazzy baby.
Good old Zazzy.
Good old Zazzy baby.
He wants to get in on the game.
He wants in, and he's like, you know what? We bought Warner Brothers, because I'm Discovery. We bought Warner Brothers, so now I'm the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. But you know what else I want? Paramount. So him and the CEO this past week had a meeting, and they're apparently talking. It's not confirmed, but they are talking about potentially merging.
I don't know how much it is about Discovery wanting to buy Paramount. I think this is a genuine...
You think this is a mutual beneficial thing?
I think this would be, and again, they are far from any kind of a deal. They were having initial talks, and someone got wind of it. But this would definitely be a true merger, I think. And I think it's one out of necessity. And it goes hand in hand with everything else we're talking about right now. I think that you're going to see a further consolidation because the industry has taken serious. Some of it is things that was thrust upon the industry and it had to kind of ebb and flow and do the best it could with what it had. But a lot of it, just again, going back to what I said, is like they did not adjust hey, why don't we need to really change the way we're doing budgets and all this kind of stuff. They didn't make any of those adjustments.
It's kind of just crazy though, that it seems like we were saying briefly before we started shooting that, like, think about it. Cause you had Disney for years buying up like Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Fox, like Nat Geo, like all the stuff they bought. Right. So your Disney or Warner Brothers, probably like Sony and Universal, or maybe one more. And those are going to be the 4 or 5 companies that own everything. Because if this was to go through, like, think about what Warner Brothers would have now, right? Warner Brothers already has Transformers, DC, all Friends, all that stuff. But if they were to get Paramount, they get SpongeBob, like, that's insane.
Well, I don't think that they get it per se as much as it would be a true merger, I think.
That's what I'm saying.
Where it's like they would have access to each other's stuff. And it's like, does Paramount streaming service become Max? Do they just become one? Like, what would that even look like?
This article on Variety here was alluding that it would just all go into Max. So that's why I was kind of leading to where it would be kind of like,
makes sense
that, like, because that's why they got rid of HBO Max in the first place, because they just call it Max, which was smart, and they probably knew this was coming. They probably knew they were looking to get more stuff.
Yeah.
If we just call it Max, no matter what we absorb, it's just Max. It doesn't have to be HBO Max. So,
and I don't think Paramount, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but the last sets of numbers that I've seen, Paramount Network wasn't blowing the doors off. It wasn't performing in the same way that some of these others were. But I think this has a lot to do, honestly.
Paramount's $10.3 billion.
10.3 billion as far as value,
and Warner Brothers Discovery is the bigger fish with the market capitalization of $28.4 billion as of December 20th, compared to the $10.3 billion for Paramount Global. So yeah, it's literally, obviously, then you would have Warner Brothers absorbing Paramount because they're the big dog.
Warner is definitely the bigger brand. And they're
$18 billion. When I think of studios, it's always Disney, Warner Brothers. Those are like the two.
And some of it is like personal biases because of, the Lord of the Rings. Tunes. Things like that. So it's like, they definitely have a huge brand awareness. But I think more than anything, the thing that is not being talked about nearly enough is I think a lot of this has to do with the fact of the impact of not just what's gone on with the industry and the hits that it's taken on into their space. These are massive tech companies that have huge balance sheets that they cannot compete with. They cannot compete with these guys' pockets. None of the studios can. Disney can't.
Yeah.
Disney cannot compete with Apple. Disney cannot compete with Google. Disney cannot compete with Amazon. They cannot. So these are companies that have huge cash hoards. Huge. So if they move into an industry, like, why do you think Amazon can walk in and slap $1 billion on the table for freaking Lord of the Rings?
What if I have a conspiracy theory? I have a theory. This is an Eris original. What if part of the reason why, going back to Disney, since we're talking about studios, they're taking off in 2024 is because they know, because we've heard Bob Iger out there. I was just saying that if we were to, right? Like, he tries to make it very vague, but it's come up several times. If the part of this is because they're looking, or they kind of know already that Apple may be coming to swoop in and buy Disney out.
Apple is the one threat for that could potentially.
Would it be? I guess what I'm saying,
because they've already got partnerships in place.
I guess what I'm saying here, would it be that shocking in 2024 if, like, we find out, oh, Apple's buying Disney?
No.
Like, would we be like, oh, wow? We'd be like, yeah, that's about right.
I will tell you this. This is one thing. This is a little something for all of you. This is one thing you can watch out for. If Disney starts selling off big pieces of their company, that makes an Apple or Disney being acquired even more likely, or more possible. Let's say it that way.
You mean pieces as far as like things that, like a Fox or like a
ESPN, ABC. Big pieces of their company that they've owned for many years. If they start,
Hulu was a big one for a while.
Well, Hulu is their albatross right now.
Yeah,
that's their financially. That's Disney's big problem.
Yeah,
is they have they're on the hook for billions of dollars to acquire the remainder of Hulu. They don't have the money to do it. I mean, they technically do, but it will put them very short.
It's already incorporated in Disney Plus, right?
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that? The beta is in, so like you don't need the Hulu app anymore if you have Disney Plus. It's actually just like you see the Marvel.
The acquisition. There's really no way out for them on that.
Like it's legally speaking, sell to Zazie, baby.
But Hulu is also, Hulu does fairly well for them. So that's not the problem. But if you start seeing them get like lob off ABC, lob off ESPN, even though they're saying right now, oh no, we're looking to build and bolster ESPN and all this kind of stuff. But if you start just see them do the opposite, all of a sudden they announce a sale for ABC, let's say, and that direction begins, then because what that can indicate is behind the scenes, there's conversations being had of like, hey, what would an acquisition look like? And the heads of Apple would be saying, well, we definitely wouldn't want this. We wouldn't want ABC. We wouldn't want ESPN. We don't want the Fox arm, whatever it is. And they said, okay, so if we get rid of that, then we can make this happen maybe. And these things are discussed in country clubs with cigars long before it ever hits.
What would Steve Jobs be saying about this right now, you think?
I don't even know.
Like, because he was there with the whole Pixar. He was still around for the whole Pixar thing.
But Steve Jobs, it's not like saying, like, what would Walt Disney think? Like, Steve Jobs was a shark.
Yeah.
That dude, he was very cutthroat. So
I'm wondering if he would want it though. It's just, I just think it's funny.
He was a very tech-minded guy, so there's an argument to be made that he would not have wanted to get into that.
I feel like Tim Cook's gonna want it though.
Yeah, it's a totally different animal.
Because it's just power. If you acquire Disney, you're just an even bigger behemoth.
If there's anybody that is a potential buyer for Disney, it's Apple.
Internet provider just got bought out by a massive company, and it was like, because then you start to see stuff. It goes, whenever a massive corporation buys a smaller one, never good. So, like, I know overall probably wouldn't be great, but then you'd have the fun little things where if Apple was to now own Disney, think of all the content that would be exclusive to like the iPads, the iPads, the iPhones and stuff, and how that integration would be like awesome.
Yeah. To me, it's not a good trade-off.
Yeah, it's not. I'm just trying to think of the positive.
Yeah, you would definitely want to go look for like what are some of the things we can be optimistic about. But it's not a good trade-off. It never is. And you
don't want that limited iPhone with
with Mickey
design. Only 1,000 made worldwide, 24 karat gold.
Have partnership with Disney. They could do that stuff now. They do. But the biggest thing is that the more consolidation of industries that we have, the more it destroys competition and the more it destroys quality for the consumer, because competition is what keeps them true. It's what keeps them honest. And when you don't have that anymore and they don't have to worry about you going somewhere else or having another option, they can just give you whatever slop they throw at you. And it's just like, where else are you going to go? What else are you going to do? And it also becomes the issue that we're dealing with now. It's like when you're going up against some of these companies, regardless of the industry you're talking about, if you have a beef, if they do something wrong and you got to try and correct it, it's like freaking moving heaven and earth because they're so huge and they have so much money. It's like even governments have a hard time fighting these guys. So it's like, it's just never good. And it's something we actually need to do the opposite. We need to be unwinding a lot of these massive companies.
I've been seeing that a lot of people say it's beneficial, and it's because there's so many. You said it a lot on here that there's so many different streaming apps. That everyone says streaming would be cheaper than cable, but now there's so many streaming apps. But if these larger companies keep absorbing the smaller ones, ultimately there will only be a handful of streaming.
Yeah. That's not what I'm calling for. What I would like to see is it go back, since you're going to create, you've just traded cable for another model of cable, then let's do like consolidation packages where you guys can all have your own streaming services. I want that competition. I want to keep it that way, but have it to where there's companies come in,
a third party.
Yeah. A third party that comes in and says, okay, then we're going to do licensing deals where we can bundle you guys together and we can offer it to the consumer for a lower rate than buying 10 different streaming services individually.
But if there's 3 corporations that own everything, then you only need 3 channels.
That's how you get Lucasfilm, Disney Lucasfilm.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting, and I feel like this is likely to happen in 2024.
If not a merger between Discovery and Paramount, there's a very good chance that you see a merger between maybe Comcast, Universal NBC, something like that with like a Discovery or a Paramount. I think these guys are looking to where they don't know how they're going to compete with these guys in the long run. And they think the answer is we've got to group together to survive the storm that we're facing.
That's an interesting thing because the streaming wars kind of just picked up like I mean, they've been a thing, but
really, the last decade or so.
Yeah, but I feel like once Disney Plus launched is when everyone got a streaming service.
Yeah, but you got to realize like that engine was started long before Disney Plus launched.
Right, but I'm saying as far as us actually getting it at market, like not like behind the scenes. That doesn't TV Plus. Yeah. We got Peacock, and like it just keep coming out and out and out and out. Everyone, we got HBO Max. Everyone like after Disney Plus, I was like, oh, Disney's doing it. We all need one.
And what I think is interesting is that these things all hit within like a 2-year period,
so I'm saying,
right around the exact same time of everything else that crazy that went down. It's like, wow, who decided 2020 to 2022 was the time frame that we were just going to do all this stuff simultaneously? Where I missed the memo.
That's what I'm saying. So it's very interesting to see like, oh, so now several of them already, because Discovery Plus was another one that got absorbed by Max. Yep. So it's like, how many is where's Peacock going to go? Is Peacock, are they going to be able to be by themselves? You know what I mean? Is that going to be a thing they could sustain? Apple obviously could be by themselves.
Sure.
Prime, because it's Amazon, they could obviously be by themselves.
That's the thing. It's like, who are the 4 companies that in the end you can see none of these are going to be absorbed?
Apple, Amazon, Disney, and probably Discovery.
I would say Apple, Amazon, Netflix.
Oh, Netflix, of course, Netflix
and Disney.
Netflix, they're the OG. They're the real streaming service.
even if Disney gets bought by Apple, I don't think Apple's going to absorb Disney Plus into Apple Plus because Disney is such a unique and recognizable entertainment brand. So they'll keep that by itself. Probably. It will remain. And to be clear, I don't think Disney is going to get acquired. I think that it's possible. I don't think that's going to happen. It certainly could, but I think Disney does better on its own.
I feel like it is just because it would be like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just feel like it's like I with agree. All this weirdness going on, I feel like it's going to happen just because it would be another weird thing to be like, of course Disney got bought.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other part of it is I don't trust the people running Disney. If Disney was being run by people who had a real clear understanding of Disney, or they relayed that at least to the fan base of what Disney is, and not just this kind of globalist corporate mindset, then I think that Disney doesn't have to do that much. There's not that many corrections that have to take place for Disney to get back to a good place.
Yeah.
But the people that are running it, I mean, for all we know, Kathleen Kennedy could become the next CEO.
Could you imagine?
Could you? Yes.
Their stock.
Upward trajectory. I think it might go the opposite.
Are you looking for a plummet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plummet might be a better word. It would not crash. It would crash.
The plot twist is going to be, the plot twist is going to be Iger's out. Chapek is back.
The return of Chapek.
The Bobs will rule the Disney dynasty.
Bobs will rule again. There's always 2.
Rule of 2.
There's always 2.
And Disney owns that. Disney does own that now.
That's right.
But I think that brings our podcast to a close.
It does indeed.
The last of 2023.
That's right. This wraps up 2023 for the podcast. In fact, we actually just finished all Variant shooting for the year.
Yes.
So Variant is done. We'll have obviously episodes and content coming out through the end of the year and into the new year while we are on break. So just another quick reminder, we are out. Variant the podcast is out. This is our last show until January 15th, 2024 in the new year.
I got shelves to hang.
Do you really?
I do.
You bought shelves, or?
I bought shelves, yeah.
Like your wife bought it for you as a gift?
No, I bought shelves.
And you're like, gee,
I needed to get stuff off my desk, so I needed shelves to just be more organized and stuff like that. But I got projects. I'm gonna clean my garage. I have a movie list. You know.
So you got to you got projects for your break.
I do, because during the work, it's so busy. It's like you get home late, then your kids haven't seen you all day, and they go to bed. You don't have enough time for actual things to get done. You only got like the weekend, and then you got to do grocery shopping and other errands, and you can't get to stuff like other things that you want to do or need to do.
And there's shows that have to be watched.
The shows that have to, dude.
Games that have to be played.
The struggle is real as far as like, you know. You don't want to stay up till 2 a.m., but you're like, if I don't, I'm never going to be able to watch anything I want to watch.
I don't do that. That's your thing. I don't do that. However, there is one thing that I have been doing that lately on, The Dolphins are on Hard Knocks, the in-season Hard Knocks show
on
HBO.
Is it good? I've heard people.
It's good. It's all right. I wouldn't say it's okay, but it's the Dolphins, so I'm just a sucker. I have to watch it.
Yeah,
because I'm a lifelong Dolphin fan. That's the only. So I've been actually like I'm dead tired because I've been working like 12, 14-hour days. So I'm like dead tired, and the new episode's out. I was like, I can see it.
Has Ace Ventura made a cameo yet? No.
Although that's a great callback. That was a deep cut right there. Yeah. That's a deep cut. Yeah, but anyway, Happy New Year, my man.
Happy New Year.
It's gonna be
holidays.
I mean, we're gonna be hanging out in the holidays anyway, but Happy New Year to all of you. We hope it is a safe and happy one for all of you guys. We will see you next year.
Drink spiked eggnog.
Spiked
eggnog, yeah.
Like you don't know it's spiked?
No, you can know it's spiked. Or maybe not. Maybe it's like Russian roulette. Maybe it's like Russian roulette eggnog.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
In any case, we'll see you guys next year.